allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening and welcome everyone to the February 6th meeting of the Ashland City Council. To our viewers at home, thank you for joining us. Members of the audience, members of council, Mayor Miller, welcome. First item of business on the agenda this evening will be the approval of the minutes from the January 16th meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes, I'll ask for a motion to approve as submitted.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward. Aye.
Minutes will stand approved. First ordinance this evening will be an ordinance authorizing the issuing of a then and now certificate for the following attached expenditures for the city of Ashland, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Move for non-reading in full. Second.
Thank you.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward. Aye.
Good evening.
Larry.
The ordinance you have before you this evening is one of those ordinances where you have to clean up things that fell after the close of the business of 2023 or invoices that were issued on January the 2nd of 2024. They were anticipated in '23 and there were purchase orders for them. Unfortunately, they did not get submitted to our office until January. And at that time, why it's kind of hard to pay when there isn't a purchase order open to pay off of. So they were anticipated by the different departments, more of a timing mechanism than anything else, and trying to get the bills paid at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Paxton?
Yeah, I have.
I was just curious about the employees that are in here, why they,
Yeah, I certainly apologize that those time cards weren't, or time sheets were not to be included, and I did accidentally forward those on
Okay.
with that invoice. Those are employees of, the city does employ some temp service employees to kind of subsidize or help assist our regular full-time employees from time to time, and that's what that is. And I do apologize, that
it's okay.
shouldn't have been a part of that packet, but
All right. Thank you.
Could you remind me on the sheriff's office invoice for the,
the city goes, and any person who is charged under a city code
oh,
and is housed in the sheriff's office, the city has to pay, I believe it's about $75 now a day for that prisoner to be held in the sheriff's jail. Along with that, any medications or items that those prisoners buy at the jail is also charged to the city for their expense of housing them. It's a ongoing cost of housing a prisoner. We would incur that regardless of where that prisoner was housed, whether it was housed in Ashland County or some other county. It's a standard practice of the county trying to recoup its operating costs. That's all.
Are any of those put back on to the individual that was charged to pay back? Do any of those come back, any of those fees come back to us?
It could, if, it depends on, I believe maybe Attorney Wolf might be able to better answer that than I could, but I believe if the judge sets the case as such, they could try to recoup some of that. Did I answer that correct?
A lot of those may be indigent defendants who are serving jail sentences. It's jail fees is what it is. And we used to have many years ago, we had a contract that set what the amount was, and we weren't able to come to an agreement at that time as to, the sheriff wanted us to always charge everything under city code, and we didn't want to do that. And so if we charge some things that happen in the city under the state statute, we don't pay those costs. And we try to do that more often than not, perhaps.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Larry, I'm just curious, are we hiring out the cleaning for the city hall?
Yes.
Some of it, yes. Yeah.
And are we trying to fill that position?
No, there is no position.
Okay,
Yep.
no in-house maintenance?
We've been doing that probably for 6 years.
It's been
Oh, okay.
been a period of time that the city does use cleaning services, in Justice Center as well as this building here.
Yeah, I guess I thought there was somebody on staff that
We
did
have a
some.
facilities person, and he does polish the floors or wax the
Oh,
floors.
that's what I'm
at
thinking of
times.
then,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
good enough. Thank
And
you,
he mows and
I see.
trims and shovels
Right.
snow.
Sure,
Light building
Mhm.
maintenance, I would say.
Right.
yeah. Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
With that then, is there a motion to approve on the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
I will move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye. Motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Ordinance 4-24.
Next, we have an ordinance, I'm skipping down to item C here because we have a public hearing at 7:20. We have an ordinance establishing a special revenue fund entitled Transit Reserve Fund 272 for the express purpose of depositing and expending transit contract revenues, funding, and declaring an emergency.
Move for non-reading in full. Second.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
As a part of the Ashland Public Transit operates in conjunction with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and they are a regulator of the transit organization, even though it is a city department and division. It also has to operate under the guidelines of the Department of Transportation, which operates under federal guidelines as well. A part of the ongoing direction from the Department of Transportation, they suggested that we develop this transit reserve fund. It will be used for operating expenses within the public transit department, but some of the earnings of the public transit from its contract revenues, where it contracts with an agency to transport maybe school children or elderly or something that would, I think they contract with Job and Family Services, for example, to transport some of their clients to and from their agency. Well, the public transit charges those agencies under a contract to haul those clients. A part of the guidelines from the Department of Transportation is you can set up this transit reserve fund and put up to 40%, if 40% of your overall operating budget into this fund, and it's set aside exclusively for the operation of the transit. There's some guidelines and things that have to be used in order to, you have to get permission to utilize the monies, so it's not something that is just ongoing day-to-day operations. But part of the suggestion was to create this fund There's a couple policies that will be coming before you as well later this year. But this is a recommendation from the Department of Transportation, of which we are trying to complete, and then we'll submit it on to the state for creation, so.
Very good. Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve on the first reading?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Miller,
Aye.
Woodward,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Workman,
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
We will again move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Woodward,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Workman,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Lawson,
Aye.
Workman,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Ordinance 5-24.
Next, we have an ordinance establishing the appropriate zoning district of a certain area of the city of Ashland.
Move for non-reading in full.
Second.
Thank you.
Miller,
Aye.
Woodward,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Workman,
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
All right, very good. Listen, you may have noticed me here on my phone. I'm not normally on my cell phone at a council meeting, but the reason I am on my phone is because I realized that in my packet here, I do not find the definition of a B2. Now, that's not a deal breaker by any means, but I was hoping I could read the definition to you. But if you take a look at the map that you have, actually, do you have the map? Mm-hmm. Okay, you have the color map. This involves the land that we recently annexed out on the US 250 corridor, just over 90 acres. Everyone remembers that, of course. Well, now that we have annexed that into the city, it's the council's responsibility to assign a certain zoning designation to that land. And if you take a look at the map, you will see that that, of course, is a business area. Most all the land that we annexed already has a business on it, whether that's a hotel, whether that's a McDonald's or a Taco Bell, whether that's a Friendly Express, a Grandpa's Cheese Barn. All of those lots, for the most part, already have a business on it. And after first taking the issue of determining what zoning designation would be assigned to that land, we take it to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission discusses what's allowed, what's not allowed, and so on, and then they make a recommendation to the City Council on what they think it should be zoned. They are recommending a B2 district. It's just general business is the definition of B2. That's not manufacturing, that's general business. And obviously, I think it's not a complicated matter. You pretty much know what's in that land already, or already built on that land, and there's not too much left to be developed. So that's their recommendation. It's consistent with what's around it. And always remember that if the day should come that something else wants to go into that area, you do have the option of issuing a variance and so on. And we did do that. At one point, we changed the zoning of a portion of land where the district is built, where the 192 apartments is built. We actually, this body did change our zoning to accommodate those apartments that have been built out there. So that day could come, but for now, we believe it makes sense to keep it B2, which is just general business, and everything that is currently built on those sites would fit in that category. So we ask for your consideration.
Questions, concerns? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve on the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
I'll move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Thank you.
Lawson,
Aye.
Workman,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Motion to approve the ordinance?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Workman,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Woodward,
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Ordinance 6-24.
Thank you. All right, we have a public hearing at 7:20. We've got about 5 minutes. There are no resolutions this evening, no old business or new business unless council has something to bring forward. Hearing none, we'll move right to Finance Director's report. Larry, if you have anything else?
Outside the additional report I'm about to give on the appropriations, we are working, have begun the process on the 2023 annual audit that kicked off this week. So we've been working with our IPA firm to begin that process. That probably will take about a good month and a half to complete with all kinds of reports and correspondence and other things that we have to do with as a part of that process. Other than that, I will defer my remaining comments to the appropriations.
Sure. Thank you. We can go right to council comments if it meets with council's approval. Mr. Lawson, would you like to go first?
The place where I'm currently employed has seen a dramatic increase in the number of people requesting financial assistance to pay their water bills. And I'd simply like to remind the public that this was something we had discussed. Our water rates had not been increased for, 13 or 14 years. This was planned in the process. It was a necessary increase. And so in case there are some other concerns that are being expressed out there about it, I think my comments are that it was an appropriate increase and we needed it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mrs.
I
Woodruff?
don't really have anything, but I am going to ask the mayor to make sure he mentions the St. Patty Day.
Oh,
I
yes.
have had lots of inquiries
Yes.
of what the day looks like, what time things start, so if you would touch on that when it's,
Absolutely.
I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller?
An article in the Times-Gazette this morning caught my eye, and it just needs to be reiterated. There's 3 instances where parents of students at Ashland University have been contacted. Your son or daughter was arrested for OVI. We need your information on your checking account so we can debit $500, otherwise they'll go to jail. Total scam. The police, no law enforcement, police, sheriff, fire department, city, no one legitimate will ask for that information on your phone. So please, if you get such a call, hang up, call the non-emergency number at the police or the sheriff's or wherever they're supposedly calling from, and get verification that it's a bogus scam. And it's not just limited to the university. It's also, elderly are more susceptible, but it's a routine scam that these people, oh, your nephew is in the jail and you need to send the money right now. So I please caution people, don't fall victim to that. That will never be done by a professional law enforcement agency.
Thank you. Mr. Kyle?
I really don't have anything this month or week session.
All right. Well, our municipal court judge sent me an email stating that he would like the council to have a copy of the annual report of Community Work Service Program. And I brought with me copies of the report for the council. And he asked if we know of any city projects or events where a little extra labor might be needed. He is happy to accommodate the city in that regard. I'm sure the mayor's probably
Yep.
well aware,
Yep.
but
Anyone?
here,
Do you want it, Larry?
got an extra.
Thank you.
Oh, I guess Terry wants from Terry.
And as you could tell from the then and now certificate, we do employ some of those in the work programs, so. And it is 7:20. Magically, we made it to our public hearing. And at this time, I'll open it up for the proposed 2024 annual appropriations for the city and hand it back to Mr. Paxton.
anytime you set a public hearing, you always wonder whether it's going to be the right time or the wrong time, and I apologize, I
That's okay.
wasn't quite sure, so
No, that's good.
I'd much rather be safe than sorry and then have to interrupt your meeting for a public hearing on this, but anyways, I suppose it worked out anyways. The ordinance that you have before you this evening is the ordinance authorizing the appropriations for 2024. The city operates under a calendar year accounting system, and in doing so, it would be nice, but I've never seen an appropriation approved prior to an accounting year. And one of the reasons for that is that you have to complete the year before, and that cash carryover, if there is a cash carryover in those funds, is then used or utilized for the next year. So, for example, in the general fund of 2023, at the conclusion of that, there was $3 million carried forward that is now going to be appropriated in 2024 in an effort to create the funding mechanism for the general fund, for example. So in doing that, it's always a catch-up. I have to share with you, I don't think I've ever passed an appropriations in February the 6th. That's kind of unusual at best. Now, that doesn't mean that we just cranked this baby out last night. That means that we started this in late December and at all of January, an effort to get to this evening. In doing that, it's quite the undertaking. Unfortunately, maybe not as much input on some of the departments as they could have had, but keeping in mind that we're trying to set the revenue streams in an effort to fund the different divisions as best we know at that time. 2023 was an unusual year. We have seen for about the last 3 years a continuous increase in our income tax collection, and that, I think that's a representation of our community, how it's building and how it's growing continuously and steadily along the way. We have some very good employers who have continued to have great success in their business, and I think that just that local income tax is a perfect example of what some of the good things that are happening in our community. Certainly, we've had a couple less than favorable things on some of our smaller businesses, but for the overall, we've seen our income tax, last year we collected $20,200,000. It wasn't that long ago that the city of Ashland collected $15,500,000. So, in about a 5-year short period of time, we have picked up that kind of growth. So, and a lot of that is withholding taxes. So that, I think, represents a good thing for our community. The budget that you have before you this evening continues to provide the funding mechanisms for the city employs about 250 employees today. That is all the full service, the police, the fire, the street, the law director, your offices, my offices, and just all of the 19 departments that work within the city's government. And in doing that, it provides the funding for the wages and the benefits and the safe work environments for all those employees. It also provides a lot of good community services. Those guys that plow the snow in the evening and salt the streets to keep us safe. The police and the fire and the water and the sewer guys who work 365 days a year. When we're home celebrating Christmas, there is someone in the city working. And that's kind of an important thing. We all drink water and flush our toilets, and if we need a policeman or a fireman, they're there. So that kind of services is what I'm referring to when we're trying to provide that funding mechanism for them. Public transit, we haul our senior citizens, and a lot of people utilize the public transit. We talked about that previously in this meeting, as well as recreational opportunities and just a variety of things that the city does that we don't really stop and think about too much sometimes. The overall budget for 2024 will equate to an $82,643,437, and I hate 68 cents, but it couldn't get out of that. I don't like appropriating pennies, but I did, so anyways, please forgive me. That equates to about $18 million being allocated to the general fund. There are different funds within the operation of the city. There is a section called special revenue funds. Those funds have been created for a special purpose. They do not fund the general fund. They fund only a particular activity, and they are set apart. They have a revenue stream and to help fund that mechanism. Some of them are through property tax, some are funded through income tax, some are funded through fees that are charged for charges for services, and some are also funded through grant opportunities as they come along. Okay? Over the last 3 or 4 years, I have been working towards trying to restructure some of the city's debt. When interest rates were very reasonable, we were looking at the opportunity to restructure some and cut some of the terms of some of those longer-term bonds. Unfortunately, the interest rates got away from us before we were able to do that restructuring. We had to have a certain amount of resources to pay down on some of those bonds, which we didn't have at that time. Unfortunately, the rates have come up, and they're above what we are currently paying on our bonds, so we will not be able to restructure some of those. But along with that, some of our bonds, or almost all of our bonds, are callable at certain times. And in 2024, if everything works out right, we will probably recall a couple of those bonds because we have the resources to pay them off. One of them will pay for the sewer line that we installed a few years ago out on US 250. That we had to borrow the money to put that line in, and that is one of those that we're looking to pay off. That funding mechanism comes from the sewer fund, and as we have talked about, there is some there's going to be a requirement that the city is going to have to look into building another retention basin. By retiring that sewer line today or this year, it will take some of that pressure off so that we can look at borrowing some of that money to build that retention basin in the future. And by doing it, why, we'll have a little more revenue available to us to do that financing. The other is, a couple of years ago, remember, we had the Mifflin Avenue water tank repainted and had some repairs done to that. That is another one which, as you know, late last year, we authorized the approval of, or the repair of the water softener at the water plant. That's an $800,000 project at this point. By paying this off, this also takes some of the pressure off of the water fund of having to meet that requirement. Now, the funding for those bonds, that money is being held in the bond retirement fund. That is not a part of the water or the sewer fund. That is a separate fund that collects the money to make the annual debt payments on those bonds. So we're holding that money in reserve, which at this point, we're investing it at 4%, so we might as well pay these bonds down, which the benefit is to take the pressure off of the water and sewer fund of having to make those debt payments in the future. Along with that, there's some capital improvements that we will continue to do, about $9 million this year of different projects. Some of that is the conclusion of the Claremont rehab. A couple $1 million of that is where the Department of Transportation paid the contractor directly. Even though they paid the contractor, that was a city project, so we have to record those numbers and that payment on our books. So in doing that, why, that is part of that $9 million. Resurfacing is also part of that, as well as other projects. Enterprise funds, about $13 million. That includes water, sewer, and sanitation. And then there's some internal service funds. The income tax that I spoke of earlier, we try to estimate as closely as we can on the income tax. This year, it's set at $19,800,000. Now, that's up from last year's estimate on income tax, and that is based off of monthly review of withholding taxes and profit and loss and individual returns, in looking at what we experienced last year, but with a conservative approach to it. I mean, I can't sit here in good judgment and say, we're going to allocate or appropriate $20,200,000 based off of history, when at some point in time, it behooves us to do a conservative approach to that income tax, but with the understanding, please keep in mind, that if we collect more than that, that doesn't get held someplace. That goes right on through the distribution to the departments that would ordinarily receive that mechanism, that funding. So even though we're budgeting 19.8, if we collect $20,200,000, if we're fortunate, that's not held in some reserve somewhere. That also gets displaced like the rest of the income tax allocation to the general fund and the street and the park and the paving and the police and fire funds, okay? And other than that, there's a fiduciary fund, but that's just a holding fund for other funds. I guess that is really what I wanted to discuss. Certainly would be more than happy to answer any of your questions you may have.
Larry, the $1 million that was borrowed to complete the Claremont project, is that slated to be paid off, and what quarter will that be?
Yes, that is also a part of this appropriation. To that note, it's a ban. It's anticipated that that will be retired this year as well.
Okay.
So our goal is to keep our city government lean and highly effective. And part of the reason why there was the ability to finish the budget so quickly is because our approach this year was we have to accommodate the wage increases that were negotiated in our union contracts, which were 3%. So all of the personnel expenses did go up by 3%. And of course, that includes benefits. All of you know that, insurance and otherwise. Health insurance did go up about $500,000 when it was all said and
Yes.
done, I believe.
Yes.
$500,000. So those expenses did go up. But other than that, there's nowhere throughout those many line items that you have to review that you see any significant increase. We more or less stuck with what was actually spent in 2023. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure if you go through it, you're going to find there are some line items that maybe it was $1,500 last year and it's $1,750 this year, or it's $2,000 this year, or something like that. But there's a good explanation for why that is. It might be because we know that you've used the example of a server may need replaced, or we need to make sure that we're accommodating some potential risk to our business that is a result of inflation, quite honestly. But there's no particular area of the budget that you could point to that, wow, that's really increased. In terms of staffing levels, we hover around 250 at any given time. And if I'm honest with you, that's what we've been since I've been in this role, and probably since you've all been on city council. I'm not sure how long before us, but it's been at 250 pretty much for the last
At least
decade.
5-6 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I would also note, though, in regard to our staffing levels, I've mentioned this, I believe, at the State of the City, but we are starting to have conversations with the police chief about potentially adding more officers in the future. And the reason that is because as we look to the horizon and see the potential for possibly 500 or 600 more living units to be added in our city, it would make sense that we will need to add police to our force. Now, the good news about that is our voters have passed twice now income tax levy, 0.25% to put towards public safety. So we've got money to fund those officers and to equip those officers. And equip means not only put a uniform and safety jacket on them or safety vest, but also a car and all the appropriate equipment that goes along with it. So I have to admit, as I sit here and say that to you, though, I think we're going to have to take a look to see when that levy is up. It's to several years,
A couple of years, yeah.
but nonetheless, people are getting what they paid for, quite candidly, and we're being very frugal with that money. So we're hoping that it lasts us a long time beyond anything that we might have expected at the time we actually all approved it. So we are very pleased with this budget. One thing I would note is the department heads are always grateful to see the budget finalized so early in the year, because it gives them the ability then to move forward on projects. Because until Larry's crew finishes the numbers, a lot of things are on hold.
That's correct.
We still can operate our city government, but some of the bigger priced items, like going to bid for the summer paving program, or those types of things, are not done until this is approved. And one of the things we found in these recent years is when we took longer to approve the appropriation or present it to you, that in some instances, some might say, precluded us from getting competitive bids because the construction crews and contractors already had their summer work schedules planned out by the time we were ready to advertise for bids. So this is a good thing, and we thank Larry and his crew, because this is record since I've been involved in city government.
I think the federal government could take a lesson, actually. So, thanks for your good work, Larry.
Well,
Yes,
I
thank you.
appreciate that, thank you. In doing that, it's an enduring process, but well worth it to get it done this early. I would respectfully ask that you approve this evening. If so, we will put it in play tomorrow.
All right. If you're concluded, Larry, I'll open up the hearing to members of the public who are here who would like to speak on the matter. If you have a thought that you'd like to share with council regarding the appropriations, you're more than welcome to step up to the podium and Be glad to take it into consideration. All right. Hearing none, then we'll close the hearing at this time and move right to the ordinance for a vote. This will be item B on your agenda. This will be an ordinance adopting a permanent appropriations measure for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2024, repealing all temporary appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Move for non-reading in full.
Second.
Thank you.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Excuse me. Move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Steve,
Second.
need to pass on the first reading.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to pass on the first reading? Lost my rhythm.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye. Again, I'll move to suspend the rules for 3 separate readings, 3 separate days.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Miller.
Aye.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Woodward.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Workman.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Ordinance 7-24.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks.
Moving then right to mayor's comments.
All right, I'll speak to St. Patrick's Day, Congressman Angela Woodward's question. Council member
That's a new
Angela
one.
Woodward's question. We are getting that question more and more. Let me tell you, for those of you who haven't realized it yet, St. Patrick's Day actually occurs on Sunday this year, March 17th, Sunday, March 17th. And that does kind of throw a wrench in some of our usual plans in the sense that we usually did it during a work day and we usually did it at noon. Well, here's what we've decided. We're going to have our festivities on Saturday, March 16th. We did a lot of research around the state and country, and there's a whole variety of different approaches. Some communities are doing it Friday, some Saturday, some Sunday, and we decided Saturday makes the most sense for us because our merchants are open downtown, our restaurants are all used to being open on Saturday. Currently, this is our plan. More details will follow. Saturday, March 16th, at approximately 11 a.m., we will have everyone who wants to join us for our annual St. Patrick's Day walking parade join us this time, not at Corner Park, but down by Foundation Plaza and Union Street area. And this time, because of the unique nature that it falls on a Saturday, we will march up East Main Street to Corner Park and to the town creek, where together at high noon, we will dye the creek a bright green. Our goal is to keep it green all throughout March 16th, Saturday, March 16th, and Sunday, March 17th. So we're going to have to pay some leprechauns overtime, I think, to do that, but nonetheless, and that's not true. We have great volunteers, but it's going to be an effort this year because for those of you who wonder, it requires that we place the dye in the creek about every 20 minutes or less. So about every 17 or 18 minutes, they have to put more dye in the creek to keep it that bright, vivid green color. So there'll be a lot of time. So if any of you want to volunteer, Dylan, we'd love to have you down in the creek that day. That's right. But it'll be fun. Hopefully it's great weather, and we're thinking of some other activities or ways to make the parade even more lively this year since it's a Saturday and everyone can join us.
Not to put you on the spot, Mayor, but will you be wearing a kilt this year?
That's a great question. I
Has
know
he
I'm
ever?
And remember,
particularly
you're being recorded.
I'm particularly fond of my green plaid pants, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Last year I
Like I
actually
said last year.
I believe last year I gave away my last kilt. I had kept one always back for myself, and I believe at the last minute I gave it to a police officer.
Sure.
Now I'm sure I could find one if I had to.
I'll loan you
Would
mine.
you like one?
Where they sell.
Yes, exactly.
Would you like another one?
No. So what I will tell you is, though, if you are watching tonight and you're thinking, boy, I've always looked with such great envy seeing those guys walk down the street in those perfect Scottish attire, and you want to join us, if you've got your own kilt, by all means, now's the time to start planning your outfit, because we would love to have you in the parade with us. So we'll give you more details as they become available. Coffee with a Cop would be the final comment that I would offer. Coffee with a Cop, the first one of 2024, is at Goldberry, their new location on Franklin Avenue, this Friday, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. at the new Goldberry headquarters, and all of our sheriff's deputies and highway patrol have been invited to join as well. So that's a great way to meet our new officers, and we have quite a few new officers. A lot of them have made the news lately, but we'd love for you to come out and meet those folks. And then the only other thing that I would offer, or I guess request, is that we go into executive session to continue a discussion of a possible city property sale.
Very good.
And
Thank
no
you, Mayor.
action would be taken.
All right. With that, then, we'll move right to comments and questions from our audience. If anyone is here who would like to address council, you're more than welcome to at this time. Mr. Blair, did you come with something in mind? A little bit. Good evening.
You got a helper.
Oh, yeah. She's a big helper, too. And when it comes to the police officers that you were talking about, the newer ones that even made the news and everything, I would love for the council to actually recognize more like Osika with the 3-year-old incident. Adam Brock has actually helped me a lot with my daughter here. She was terrified of police officers and as well as people in uniform, and she actually turned her around on that.
Good.
Good.
A lot with the Ashland Police Department and everything else like that. A lot of the officers that have been making the news and have been making a great effort and everything else like that. I would love it for the festivities and stuff like that to more recognize those officers if the council would actually look on more on that.
Very
Thanks.
good.
Did you want to say something? What do you want to say? Huh? You can say hello.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yes.
You're always welcome. You too, Lily. All right, with that then, mayor's asked for an executive session for the possible.
And I would also like to add, if we could adjourn to downstairs, because we have a group coming in, I believe at 8, to set this room up for a breakfast meeting tomorrow.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right.
Yep.
That's all right. Asking for a motion to adjourn to executive session for the possible sale of real estate. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
And no action will be taken. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.